Alright, viewers, smile for the camera. Somebody remember to take the lens cap off this thing? Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and today we're going to take a look at a very special Transformer. We're going to look at a Transformer group, the Generation 1 Decepticon Reconnaissance Team, Reflector. Reflector is a trio of robots: Spyglass, Viewfinder, no wait a minute here, we got that mixed up, Spyglass, Viewfinder, and Spectra. Reflector was a mail-away offer. He was first made available to us in 1986. However, Reflector did make appearances in Season 1 of the Transformer cartoon back in 1984. Reflector, they only used Viewfinder, the model for Viewfinder, but it would be a trio of little robots, and they all talked in triplicate. Reflector was voiced by Chris Latta, who also voiced Starscream in the cartoon. However, Reflector would disappear midway through the first season, as Hasbro did not want to promote a toy that they were not certain they were going to release. And then 2 years later, they decided to finally release him as a mail-away. Reflector appeared on numerous of the mail-away promotions. Possibly the most famous and well-known was this little tiny one here, which, by interesting coincidence, there is a variant to this. We're going to show you that here right now. As you can see, this is the front cover of it. That highlighted the camera mode and shows off Spectra. You open it up all the way. Wasn't very big. And it pretty much showed you, and I like this up here, Reflector is an evil marauder, not a working camera. Really? But it gives you a listing that it came with all 3 robots plus all their accessories. And over here it gave you the little brief about him. Reflector, the Decepticon reconnaissance robot, turns the fine art of observation into the cruel craft of destruction. Made of 3 Decepticon attack robots, Spectra, Viewfinder, and Spyglass, Reflector wields power with a cold click of a shutter. And he would cost $10 and 2 robot points. So he was pretty easy to get your hands on him, provided you got the toy that included this in a reasonable amount of time. On the back side here was the coupon, where you put in how many reflectors you wanted. California residents had to add sales tax, plus it cost you $1.25 to ship him. And your parents filled out all this information down here at the bottom, and they mailed this to the Transformer offer in North Hollywood, California. Now this offer expired at the end of September in 1987. And you would think that'd be the end of it. But, like I said, there is a variant to that, which I discovered purely by accident, that allowed him to still be available until the end of September 1989. And they charged 50 cents more for shipping, so he became $1.75. And while California residents still had to add sales tax on this version, you were actually mailing the coupon to Ohio. So Interesting little variant there, folks. Like I said, I stumbled upon it completely by accident. Now, we're going to take a look at each individual robot, give a little bit about them, and we'll show how to transform them and such. So, here we go, folks. We will start off here with Spectra. Spectra is described as the brawn of the unit. So he's got all the physical strength, but as is stereotypical of these types of characters, he's also the one lacking in brains. About the only sense he has is to be a tattletale to his compatriots, as if he finds out about a scheme they're cooking up, he's usually the first one to go to their superiors and snitch on them. So the other two, when they want to concoct something outside of the normal chain of command, they've got to work extra hard to make sure he doesn't know what's going on. Or if he does, make sure he knows very, very little so they can persuade him to join along. Taking a look at Spectra up close, we're going to take a look at some of his articulation. But one thing that I can definitely tell you that's appreciative of this toy is die-cast metal right here in the chest. He has got some die-cast metal in here. And this was done at about the time when Hasbro was phasing out having die-cast metal. So this will last you, folks. Taking a look at his articulation, he did have articulation at the shoulder. You could rotate his arm all the way like that. And if you wanted to, you could fold his arm inward like such. He does have articulation at the hip. He can bend his leg backward and that far forward. And he can bend completely at the knee. To transform Spectra, we just take his gun out of his hands. You keep the arms vertical like such, and then you just fold them against his chest like so. And then you will take his legs, fold them behind his back, and then fold them at the knee up against his back. And he forms the clicker side of the camera, as the little button here on the top of his head makes a clicking sound for pretend picture taking. Now we'll move on to the brains of the unit, Spyglass. Spyglass is the smart one of the group. He tends to be the one that comes up with, helps further elaborate the plans that Viewfinder comes up with. And he also works to make sure that Spectra doesn't learn much about it, or acts as the one to persuade him to go along with the plan. So in many ways you could say Spyglass here is the negotiator. As you see, Spyglass has two guns. Really doesn't matter who gets this bonus one, but a lot of the lore gives it to Spyglass. It is a rocket launcher made with the flash cube. Get that out of our way here so we can have a better look at Spyglass. As articulation goes, he's somewhat similar to his buddy Spectra. He can rotate his arms all the way around at the shoulder, but instead of folding them across his chest, he can fold them across his back. Get the other gun out of the way. I've always wanted to do this. He can walk and keep both of his hands behind him. Sort of a way of evoking the Jadzia Dax character from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Well, every so often even I walk like that. Moving down here to his legs, he can move them forward just like that, do a nice sharp kick, and he can move them just slightly behind him, and he can bend at the knee, but he bends at the knee the opposite way. Now, to transform Spyglass into the component for the camera, it's pretty similar to what you do with Spectra, but a little bit in backwards. As you can imagine, you have his arms straight down like this, but you fold them to his backside, and his legs are instead folded up over his chest. And Spyglass here forms the side that the flash cube would go on. We'll put it on him when we're ready, once we assemble the camera. So, in the meantime, he just sits there and looks like a box with a robot head on it. And lastly, we have the team leader, Viewfinder. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, where is his gun? Well, it's right here. He does have it. The problem is with Viewfinder's way of holding his gun is to insert the post into these tiny holes here on the side of his fists. And 30 years of playwear means that he doesn't hold on to it very well, like you saw just there. So, more often than not, Viewfinder doesn't hold his gun. That's something that you might want to be very cautious about if you're buying one on loose on the aftermarket, that playwear will keep him from holding his gun. Now, I'll hold it here against him so you can get kind of a look as to how he holds it. As you can see, you're not really missing much, because having the gun held at the side like that just looks stupid. I don't know if they were trying to go arm cannon-like, but let's face it, folks, only Mega Man and Samus Aran have mastered that. This guy, no way. Now, like we said, Viewfinder is the leader of the Reflector team. He's the one that comes up with the schemes. Primarily watching things. Viewfinder likes to look at stuff. He'll look at boring things like vegetation. He'll watch cows grazing in the field. He'll watch traffic on the Los Angeles freeways all day. But one thing he really loves to watch are his compatriots slacking off on their duties. Reflector loves to catch other Decepticons shirking their responsibilities and their duties. Thus, he captures images of them goofing off or neglecting their duties or whatever, and uses it as blackmail material. So, Reflector here is a vicious little twerp, for lack of a better word, since this is a family channel. In some of the more recent comic books, Reflector was given a job by Shockwave to monitor all of the security cameras on Cybertron. So you can imagine what he's cooking up with having that kind of access. And people say having Big Brother watching over you is a dangerous thing. Reflector, and Viewfinder in particular here, proves that. Now, when it comes to articulation here on Viewfinder, he's kind of similar. He can rotate his arms at the shoulder, but this is as far as it goes. As you can imagine, with the means of transforming him, means his arms do get worked loose a little bit. But also be careful that they're not pulled off entirely. People tend to, since you push and pull the arms in and out to transform him, they tend to get a little forceful and just yank the arms right off. So be careful on loose samples. On his legs here, Reflector can bring it up, Viewfinder rather, can bring it up all the way like that. So he can do a pretty decent, impressive kick. And he can even do it the same backwards. Maybe he should join up with the Rockettes. And he can bend at the knee at 90 degrees. To transform Viewfinder, like all the others, you get his arms pointing straight down. And then you just gently push them in to cover his head. Then you will take his legs. You're going to fold them up against his back. As you can see, he's got two posts here on the back of his feet, and those connect to these two little holes here on his back. Just fold them up one at a time and just pop it right in. And then Viewfinder forms the central part of the camera. He even has a spot here on the back. That's where you would look through to take the pictures. So I'll let you look through there, and you can pretty much see right through and see the poster board behind here. We will, for whatever good that did. Alright, bring out his buddies, and we'll get this camera assembled here. We'll start with Spectra. Spectra goes over here on this side. Both he and Spyglass connect the exact same way. They have two holes here on their sides. This top hole here connects with this post right here at Viewfinder's shoulder, and then this bottom hole connects to the post that's on the side of Viewfinder's leg. Since the one at the shoulder is the longer one, you start with it, and then just line up the other one and gently push them together. Just got to line it up a little bit. Sometimes it takes a little effort. There we go. Now, of course, to complete the look, you're going to need the flash cube. Put right here on top of Spyglass. And, of course, a telephoto lens mounted on the front. And there you have it, folks. A 35mm camera. To those of you young people out there, this was what we used to have to take pictures with before cell phones. So yes, unfortunately, Reflector is a product of his time. But it's still a pretty imaginative idea. So heads up, hands up to those that worked on designing this toy. This is a rather nice toy. And plus, if you really want to go so far to do an attack mode, you would take this specific gun, insert it into the telephoto lens, and stick a missile into the flash cube, and then now you have an attack camera. Yeah, it looks kind of wonky, but hey, it's a play feature. And back in those days, regardless of how stupid it looked, if it was something we could do, we did it. Now, let's take a look at all of these loose pieces that Reflector came with. We'll start here with his flash cube. As you can see, that's a nice chrome piece to reminiscent of the flash unit, so that's very, very nice. And it does have a trigger mechanism up here for the launcher, but of course, as with the way the toy laws were back then, it has been neutered, so it does not fire. You have to watch, make sure, check for this little post down here. This is very small, so you can imagine it breaks easily. And then you have a simple telephoto lens. There's nothing real fancy about it. Got some numbers here running along the one side of the sticker. And it just plugs in. There's no lens or anything in it, so it's kind of, you can stick your finger in it. Otherwise, it's a simple piece of plastic, but as you can imagine, it probably gets lost relatively easily. And of course, you have 3 missiles. They're all dark gray in color. Nothing real fancy about them. They're just an ordinary missile. And of course, you've got 3 different guns. You have what is known as the lens laser. This was the gun that we stuck into the telephoto lens, so hence the name. This is Viewfinder's gun. It's interestingly designed, but it also looks a little wonky, a little bit big. Of course, like we saw there with Viewfinder, playwear will keep him from holding on to it after a while, so bear that in mind when you're looking for a loose one. And this is Spyglass's gun, what they call an opto blaster. I kind of like this foregrip down here at the bottom. It just looks rather wicked. Yeah, it is that wicked. I just dropped it on the floor. Pick it back up so you can look at the other side. Otherwise, it doesn't really have much going on for it either. Then we got Spectra's gun, what they label as a shutter gun. Down here's where he holds it. Got a nice foregrip here and what could be the ammo box sticking out the side, so kind of indicates he might be left-handed. But it's hard to say. It could be anything you want it to be. You could make it a side grip if you prefer. Since he does, his arms do swing that way, so yeah, it could be side grip. However you want to label it, but that's what it is. Those are all the pieces. Best of luck getting all of them. Alright. Now we'll take a look at Reflector's instruction manual. It did come with the package, and as you can see, if we can get it all to unfold, there we go. He got himself a big instruction manual for such a small toy. Take a look here. This is listing all the parts. And then they show here how to arm each robot. And then we go into the instructions on how to transform them. They start with Spectra. Then they go into Viewfinder, which makes sense. And then they go into Spyglass. And then how to put them all together as the camera. And then to do the attack camera mode, as well as a nice finishing touch. And then how to put on his stickers that mine unfortunately did not come with. Then now we get into something really different. As you can see here, the proof of authenticity is done up to be a large size. So you're not going to miss that. And then they put his tech specs here on the instructions because he came in a simple mailer box. So this was nice. Reflector is the only mail-away exclusive to get a full tech spec. Because the Omnibots They didn't give them any, citing that they were still developing, so they were still developing their power, so they didn't have a way of measuring them yet. Then the Power Dashers, you basically got a nice little picture of them and a brief bio that really didn't tell you squat. So this was a bonus. You got a real nice one here with Reflector, and it's a nice big size too. Good luck finding this sucker cut off loose. I mean, this is one you don't want to cut this off. You don't want to ruin the instructions. This is a nice one. But anyway, you got a slight bit of purple on here to remind you he's a Decepticon. It even says Decepticon up here in nice big letters. And gives his name as Reflector. As you see, they just go with the camera on it for the picture. It lists the function as reconnaissance. And their motto is, see and you can know. Know and you can destroy. Loves to observe things. Vegetation, architecture, earth and topography, and particularly comrades' mistakes. Likes to blackmail his associates and is impressed with his own ability. Has highly developed infrared vision that can record images in darkness, through camouflage, and at great distances. In camera mode, can emit powerful flash explosion that leaves enemy blind and disoriented for up to 15 seconds. Alright, let's lay the decoder as best we can over the grid, but as you can also see, it's done up in a very dark color, so we don't even need the stupid decoder. Alright then, it gives his strength as 7, his intelligence is 8, his speed is 2, his endurance is 6, as is his rank, his courage is 7, his firepower is 6, and his skill is 9. So, as a group, they are not to be underestimated. They do have some impressive stats going for them. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of Reflector? Reflector is a pretty awesome toy. This was one that I will admit to you, my fans, I always wanted him growing up as a child, but I never got him. Mainly due to the fact that I didn't get a lot of the big Transformers until the holidays. So, by the time those would appear, the deals were usually off. So, I missed out on him. And once I started as an adult collector, Reflector was one of the first that I sought out. And he was one of the first ones that I did purchase from Transformer Land. So, thanks again, Matt, for having him for sale at the time that I came looking. Even though I know that's coincidence. Reflector is still a great toy, even after all these years. I mean, yeah, the 35mm camera mode is a product of his time from the 1970s and 80s when the toy was originally made. But he does have the nice thing about being a smaller combiner team, and they combine just to form their alternate mode. Instead of forming a giant behemoth, they form a small camera. And it was different. That's what makes it likable. Plus, the lore in the years that have come since has expanded upon their personalities. So now you do have them as something of a little bit of a team. And instead of being just this dull group that the cartoon made them out to be, there's more interesting things about them. So I've grown to love them in the coming years. I still would have liked having him as a kid, because I can imagine the fun I would have had, but still, as an adult collector, I can see why Reflector is still highly in demand by the fans. As for positioning him on a tier, hands down, folks, Reflector here has to go in the top tier. The demand for this toy, even after all these years, is unbelievable. How many people want to get their hands on this toy. That and the fact that, like I said, it's a small, self-contained team. There wasn't very many of them that weren't part of a specialty faction or a specialized unit. So, Reflector was kind of ahead of his time with that. Then when you add to the fact that you got 3 different personalities all after the same thing, it definitely makes for a winning combination. Top tier, folks. And that concludes my review of the Generation 1 Decepticon Reconnaissance Team Reflector. If you liked the video, please thumbs up it here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. And please do share your thoughts and comments with me in the comments section below. Tell me what you think of Reflector. And next week, folks, Reflector will make another brief cameo appearance because we're going to be taking a look at a very special promotional offer that I happened to stumble across recently on eBay. Well, not recently. I bought this months ago, but I have been eager to show this thing off to you. And next week, you're going to get to take a look at it. So please hold your breath and please do enjoy it. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.